Um, yeah, so if that's coming through, is that coming through for you? That's coming through okay, isn't it? The
Yeah,
so basically, normally what we do, Mike, um, and and thanks for the opportunity to do this with you. It's good in a way that what's happened over the last 12 months makes this sort of conversation a lot more likely than it probably did, 12 months ago. That's for sure.
Yeah,
So it's great. And there is no, and as you said, you throw Terry and Carol into the mix. The likelihood of them coming into contact with us was probably pretty low, I imagine. So yeah, we do appreciate it. So normally what we do, and so I should have said for Emily. So Mike's agency is brilliant, right? So from as far as the things that Mike, I mean, maybe just get a quick snapshot, Mike, how you spend most of your week and the sort of the people that you're working with.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I pretty much just answer emails nowadays, non-stop. I just counted, so we've got quite a wide range of businesses we work with. Been running a private business for I think 11 years now, and
wow.
it's evolved considerably over the times. We started out doing a lot of animation and flash work, and obviously that's all kind of gone.
Right.
We still carry that mentality through to a lot of what we do, but really what we do is very business orientated, and it's really aiming to try and help more traditional businesses take advantage of digital.
Yep.
So that's kind of the core for Liquid Digital, and we're a small team still, but we really work with people to create a strategy and then help them execute it. And being a small team, we're all super nerds. We love what we do. We love technology, but obviously we can't do everything. So for us, strategic partnerships is really important, and having the right people in place to help execute, specifics and more kind of like niche areas is really, really a big thing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and for us, it's fair to say, both pre-Christmas and pre-Easter, it's been good to talk to Mike, is because we've we're a bit the same in terms of, particularly this year, we're really focusing on just people that we can collaborate and work with, and know that we'll do our part, they'll do their part, or and as you even mentioned with your parents, if people focus on what they're good at, and we focus and do the things that we think we're good at, then hopefully everybody wins, and we go from there. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you've undersold. I think from memory, you blew me out of the water because you've been doing it a long time too, right, Mike?
Yeah, for sure, man. I was freelancing before I set the business up for about another 9-10 years before that.
Wow, okay, yeah.
So
started in CD-ROMs and multimedia kiosks pre-internet days, and now everything we do is online, or at least has an element of being online.
Yeah.
And look, as I say, it's for us anyway. We don't think it's rocket science. We think it's pretty straightforward, because maybe it's because of what we do, but I guess it's really about trying to demystify a lot of it. Technology is scary if you don't understand it.
Correct.
So that's the big one, and we try and humanize technology for our clients as much as possible. But it's how far do you want to take it as well? I mean, there's we'll do everything from branding right through to systems integration. So it's a pretty wide area of what we touch on.
Yep.
And then we bring in specialists for different situations, as I mentioned. So
so I'm going to speak as if I'm speaking to Terry and Carol, I reckon, and that way no one will be offended. So as you said, we're very similar. So in fact, it's more often than not that we're speaking to Terry and Carol, and we do try and, a bit like you just said, we try and remove the complexities that we might talk about on a day-to-day, and try and keep it sort of simple. I think I've been called a tradesman-like marketer at one point, which I think is a compliment, given my target audience. And Emily, you know, and so we're all a bit the same in terms of the networks that we're part of, because the clients typically look more like me than Emily, or even yourself, Mike. You know, realistically, we do have to keep it at a fairly understandable level, that they can, basically.
Yeah.
But certainly, even after today, with if Terry and Carol do come back with questions and that sort of thing too, then should be sure to sort of feed it through. So we start out. The first thing we do is realistically go looking for. Well, I better make sure I'm on the right thing. But Lioncrest Education, what crops up, right? So that's literally the first thing that we do. I reckon about, I don't know in your experience, but I reckon about 50%, particularly if it's a bricks and mortar business. Sometimes people won't realise they've got the Google My Business, but the Google van went and took a photo of it, you know, years ago or whatever the case might be. So often, in fact, it'll say here, right, do you own this business, right? So the good thing for us, it suggests it's active. There's a little bit of review on there, which it's clearly quite high. And so it's certainly something we can, with Terry and Carol, take ownership, even if they don't have day-to-day working knowledge and ownership of it. The other thing is quite interesting is how high the social medias are actually coming up for it already.
Yeah,
right. So, and this is the most common thing that we will see is that LinkedIn is actually higher than Facebook, which is kind of strange, right? So maybe that's got something to do with Terry and Carol being around for it longer than maybe the brand. I don't know.
Sure. Well, look, Lioncrest were actually pretty much, you know, they were early adopters. They were online back in like 95, 97.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, like they were super early, and they've had, you know, 4 or 5 or 6 websites over the years. So their domain strength's pretty good in terms of, you know, so there's I think there's a lot we can do here, guys, to really push it to the next level.
So even Instagram's coming up as being pretty high, on the as far as the name. The other thing is sometimes depending on industry, you know, and you'll know this from your work, Mike, but, you know, we're looking to see if anything's trying to compete directly with it with ads over the top or anything along those lines. Clearly, there's nothing along those lines. It seems to me that they've pretty much got a mortgage on their name for the space. You know what I mean? There's nothing really competing. And again, it would just be a matter of just making sure we're getting the most out of that that particular channel. We tended to call it a search channel rather than a social channel in the past, but now we've actually got a schedule that we're using where we can post directly, so you can have these updates. We were doing them just monthly or bi-monthly, but now we're doing them daily or depending on what our clients are asking. So just because we have easier capacity to do that now. What's happened there? So that's good. Here we go. I might just look at the website rather than this, and you've probably got some opinions on this, but I'll actually go to the website rather than here.
So website, we're currently in discussion around a new website for them. But being
it's not terrible.
It's not terrible. You know, they're really active. They're constantly evolving it. But it is on a Joomla 3 platform, which is becoming a nightmare to maintain. So, and it's also, you know, integrated into their inventory management system.
Right. Yep.
So there are a lot of complexities.
And I think, you know, so it probably falls higher on the technical, but certainly I think there's there's probably a lot of content on here, right? So as a social media marketer, that's the first thing, right? How much is this content? You know, this is a content-rich site. We're often sort of talking about, you know, for us, real imagery, real places works best, particularly from a social. But, you know, there's no, you know, what could consider as sort of a billboard type thing that might be consistent with social. But clearly you get a lot of imagery just because of the books and resources that are available through the site. So I think probably the best thing to say is it's content rich. We'll show the little model which you and I have spoken about before, but we believe people tend to read a website top left, Lioncrest. What is it? You know, but then you've kind of called it out here, is that it tells you, right, that it's quality education resources realistically. Read it down. I can pretty much find these key big buttons, which I think is good. And then I can go back up the top. And again, this looks to me like a fairly, you know, people want me to click on here. I'm a parent. I'm going to click on that. It's good to see that these are all sitting up the top. and that they open to a new tab, right? So we have plenty that we look at, and when we go and look at it, it'll open over the top, and then you'll probably lose them, right? So
Yeah.
we want it. We want the proofing of the social media, but we don't want to lose them to social media because it goes over the top of the website, and then they might not ever come back. There's a couple of plugins you probably could put on, just potentially around who is following it. If there's space around the Joomla, you would have seen those sort of plugins that, who's following this page and just showing updates as they're happening, right? So
Yeah, sure.
it's not a bad way of and we often encourage that. As well as, do you know if they've got the Facebook pixel sitting behind the website at the moment?
I'm not sure, and
No,
if it's not there, then we normally set that up.
Clearly, yeah. So it's anybody that's got any involvement with the websites, it's a fairly simple plugin just to put the pixel behind the website.
We've got tag manager and everything rolling, so it should be pretty straightforward.
Yep. So all in all, the website, there's certain things that purely from a being able to do what we would do and want to do, it's more than professional and functional in that way, right? So everybody, often people sort of are worried that, and might have a little bit of web shame. I don't think this is a web shame type project, right? So for us, I'd feel very comfortable, and I think you would as well, Emily, around grabbing the content that's there and sharing it, right? So, and it's not rocket science the way that we do that, right? So, so we just want to make sure that we've got, the key sort of thread of things that we want to share on a daily basis. So that's the website. We talked a little bit about LinkedIn, and as you said, it's worth noting, probably because of how long ago they created the company page, that it's very strong for them after their website, right? We try and use the same banner across everything. I think in this case, it might be that it could be a montage of. I quite like the montage element of that little banner, but we don't generally put the words across the top of it, just because of the fact that depending on what you're looking at it, if you're looking on mobile, the likelihood is you can't read it anyway. And as soon as we put words on, in the past, it used to knock algorithm. Nowadays, there's an argument whether it does or it doesn't, and you didn't even used to be able to advertise things that had content over the top. But anyway, real people, real places. And the other great thing about LinkedIn now is that you can invite up to 100 people per month, 100 network, to actually follow the company page. And we're getting greater impressions on our companies now than we are on Facebook organic reach, right? So clearly, for an organisation that's been around, we'd want Terry and Carol particularly, and anybody involved in the business, to be inviting people to follow the page, because so then when we're posting, more and more people are going to see those posts, particularly if we're engaging with them, right? So, and there's Carol. We always make the point of wanting to make the people that we're working with so they are the best possible representative of the businesses or businesses that they're part of. It's really just a LinkedIn business card, realistically. Now, I could see there that Carol's probably not been using it, probably doesn't use it. It's fairly low connection, and that's pretty typical for sort of my generation and a 10-year swing of me. Is that there's that element of suspicion rather than thinking, well, actually, in fact, this is just public. It's what, realistically, it's a business card, realistically. And by making those connections, then, as I said, there are certain advantages for the company in that, as well as for the individuals generally. Yeah. And I imagine Carol, if she's been involved for a long time, connecting with various people through emails and fax machines, then there's probably a lot of connection on here that she could potentially have.
For sure. And look, Lioncrest also have a educational rep force.
Okay.
So I would look, absolutely, and I'll let you continue with your approach. But look, I mean, there's plenty of stuff I think we can do in terms of a lot of social. LinkedIn, they've been very, let's get it set up and let's have a bit of a tinker. And now it's kind of time to do a little bit more. Yeah,
I think that you hit the nail on the head. It's the Salesforce. So Emily works with a brand called LimLive in Sydney, and the two people that have kind of got their eyes and helping us with the social are both the sales. They're sales reps essentially, and they kind of just use it in a way of, when they're connecting with people, is then just sharing, a little bit more about the business, particularly on LinkedIn. And again, I actually thought that this logo, where you've kind of got you've picked out the quality education resources. That's actually not on the website, but I thought that's something you probably would want to position potentially on the logo across everything. And then generally, I would almost think a photo montage of the resources might be something to consider as the banner.
Yeah, definitely.
But again, it's that consistency. As you said, at the moment they're almost. Yeah, sorry, Em.
Oh no, I was just in the Central Coast last week, so I was just in Cessnock. That's all.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There you go. And so clearly, at the moment, they're sort of being used probably almost from a website /search basis. So they're there, the posting. What would happen, I imagine, with these posts when they're actually once a month or even once a fortnight, you often get a little bit more organic reach because they're being left on and not much else is going through. And Facebook don't want you to post too much, but they also would rather you post at least with some consistency, right? So clearly what we do is we're either posting every day or every second day, and it's something that's always sharing something strategic. Could be a testimony, could be a particular resource, it could be a particular about, the fact that Terry's got an OA, if that's relevant to the business, we might put that in there as well. But yeah, it's a sort of strategic funnel of posts, if that makes sense, where we know where it's coming from. But most people, because they're going to be seeing it in the news feed, aren't going to necessarily know that we're doing resources on Monday about us on Tuesday, for instance. That sort of thing. So, so similarly, it looks like the similar posts, if not the same posts, are going through to Instagram, which is what we do too, but we just do it on that more regular basis. Twitter was there; it just needs completion, I think. And it looks like it is still coming through. And again, that looks like it's a similar post to what was on the other pages too. This is just the Google map. So that's just the link that you'd share for reviews and that sort of stuff. As I said before, it's clearly good. And then the YouTube channel is the other one. And there's been a little bit done on YouTube. But again, we can probably create the cover and create all the links in the YouTube channel as well. Are they likely to do a little bit of video every now and again?
Look, the big thing for these guys is they're all fairly time poor. But look, again, what we really need from you guys is to create those recommendations and help drive it. If you guys say, hey, we need some video content created, let's discuss that and let's work out how to get that done.
And that makes sense. So just a little bit, I might just, rather than start at the top, sometimes this can be a bit slow to load this page. You've seen this before, I think, Mike, and sometimes I have to use my picture. There we go. It's opening up. But again, very quick synopsis. Again, mainly perhaps more for Terry and Carol. But social media marketing sits up the top as far as communications. Mike, you're effectively digital communications. So we sit up there with you and the sort of work that you're doing. Most small businesses tend to just call that business strategy and marketing, right? So ultimately, we often have to sort of say, look, we can do the best we can do with social media, but we just need to make sure that we want to work with good businesses like Lioncrest that have been around and kind of know that it's a going concern and they've already got their business strategy act together. Clearly, over the time, they well and truly know their customer. Is a lot of a return customer, Mike? Do you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of return customers. So basically, these guys work direct with schools mainly. So they have been sort of toying with retail. So like B2C, I guess. But for them, schools are there and they order large quantities of educational resources. So at the moment, it's still the focus, and there's only a finite amount of schools in the country and in New Zealand. So therefore, the rep force is out looking after them, supporting them, making sure that they understand the range and the best possible products. So
Awesome.
So definitely repeat business is important.
Yep.
The website has been doing exceedingly well over the last few years.
Yep.
And it's now becoming a very centric part for their business. But yeah, definitely it's mainly repeat business.
Yeah,
But,
and as far as offer and Lioncrest within the industry, is there sort of some key points of difference for them, would you say? I mean, other than longevity is one, clearly, I would imagine.
Yeah, look, definitely longevity being one. They've got exclusive content, some very important exclusive content.
Yep.
So they've been out, building it up for a long time, and so there's definitely a whole bunch of things that make them who they are, and a very well-established player, I guess, in the market. But yeah, look, I mean, all that also, I guess, talking about that's something we can do a little bit more on social as well to keep it a little bit more front of mind. So.
Yeah, well, a part of that probably some of the strategic network that we've talked a little bit about making sure that the representatives are the best they can be of the business, and then the business is as good as it can be on the LinkedIn channel itself. But a lot of it becomes that sort of probably making sure that they're connected on the socials to some of their key partners, and those partners could also, imagine, be publishing houses. Could it? Is that would they have key? You said exclusive content. I imagine that's publishing house, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So they work with a whole bunch of publishers from Australia and all over the world, and then they have some exclusive, some non-exclusive rights to that content for Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, and is it one of those things where the pricing's pretty consistent? Like, is pricing something that the industry tries to compete on, or not so much?
That's the question for Carol and Terry.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. That's all right. Yeah, it's all right. No, I imagine with books often it would be pretty consistent, but it's just who's got access to what, and then who your favourite kind of might be. Anyway, it is again probably for Carol would be around that sort of just making sure that any social we do, we're pretty confident generally that we'll be covering off more than what rivals will be doing. But clearly, if they've got rivals that there's certain things that they think that they're doing well, we'll make sure that we have a look at that. And as I said, we'll try and do it better. That's our expectation. And so, generally speaking, the likelihood is the prospects and who we would target with any advertising would look like the current customer. So we talk to, in the session around what targeted ads might look like. And then the strategy we use, we've talked about the website, but we use a repurposing strategy. So we ask people to put all of their content we talked about before about video. So if a video got made, we wouldn't just be talking about putting it on the YouTube channel. We'd be talking about putting it on the website, and then we'd share it from the website through to the social media channels so that it doesn't just live for 24 to 36 hours. Basically, people can go back to the website and get more information. But having said that, we write posts in such a way, or Emily does and I do, around so they can go to the website to get more information, or if they're inclined, they can just look at the phone number that's there or the email or whatever it might well be, the call to action. There's bricks and mortar as well for the business?
They don't do retail like.
There's no outlet. There's no need to come and collect from anywhere. Then it's basically no. Okay, cool.
They do warehouse and store. Like they actually have a warehouse in Australia.
They just distribute. Yep.
Basically distribution. Yeah.
Yep. So again, from a small business perspective, we kind of know that less than 50% of businesses actually have an active presence. So that just means they have a Facebook page, and of them, less than 35% have ever advertised. Means you get a very small percentage, particularly if they're only using Facebook, that are likely to get any return on investment, right? And so pointing out the return on investment for us isn't about capture and conversion. Return on investment for us is reach, which equals eyeballs in newsfeed, engagement, ad recall, and traffic are really key to what we talk about as far as return on investment. So we measure how many people are going through the website, all that sort of stuff, right? And report on that.
Do you guys do ads, so Facebook ads?
We do, yeah. We create those.
Yep.
We create those. The question becomes at what level. So we basically do it to that sort of our clients sort of between that 500 to 1,500 per year type spend, right? So in other words, a $5 to $10 a day spend is typically what our extra small clients are spending.
Yeah.
But we do have a number of clients that get to that next point where they're wanting to spend, let's say $15, $20 a day to try and convert, right? So they want to hear they want a Shopify website to be ka-chinging, and or they want a particular form completed. Then we typically have a relationship now with Reach Local, which is a new relationship. So I don't know. Again, if you do the pay-per-click, most often pay-per-clicks SEO don't do it well. So the reason we've kind of a developing relationship with them around Facebook ads is because when we don't control people's website, we can't control that conversion, right? We can only tell people how much is going through. So again, so
and then maybe the only other area there would be boosting posts. Obviously, now with all social platforms, you pretty much have to spend money to get much in terms of reach. So I don't know if you guys do that in terms of your strategy as well.
So the strategy is very much around. Generally, we're using a three-pronged type campaigns, right? So we're using brand awareness, which basically gets massive reach. So we actually, I might have talked to you this before, since COVID and during COVID, the amount of reach we get for a $5 spend is about 3- and 4-fold of what we used to get, right? So your value for dollar has gone up markedly. And now even with a reach type post, you can actually put the website and call to action in it, which goes to both Facebook and Instagram, right? And it's the only way you can get a call to action in unless you're using a Shopify type site, right? So the other one is engagement or video views, right? So often, if people have a video, whether it's an explainer or whatever it might well be, we will go with a video view. And that'll get engagement. Often is classed as people watching it through as well. But then the other one is traffic. And so traffic is the main one that people will split. So we might split, if they were doing, let's say $6 a day or even $5, we'd probably do $2 reach to get sort of 4,000 or 5,000 people seeing it. But at the same time, spend $3 a day to get traffic. Right, so they're the campaigns we're using because we want to be able to show that the pixels are going through, the pixel flares, that you're getting traffic through the website as a result of what we're doing, right? And generally, it'll line up pretty closely to what, say, if Emily's posting a certain thing every week, and as well as we're doing a certain ad, then the pixels will fairly closely marry up to where people are going to look at, right? So we try and drive people to particular pages, right? So if that could be down to a particular resource, so realistically. But yeah, we work through the target. The part of the planning session is working through the target audience, and basically that could be someone in the school system, whatever that type of position is, the purchasing officer. But clearly, there's probably. It's often, particularly with our clients, it's understanding that we don't try and make the haystack too big. We try and narrow the haystack as pointy as we can, but it's still a haystack.
Right.
Does that make sense? Yeah, because particularly when you're talking Australia to New Zealand, pretty big continent, right? So you got a couple of national spaces there. So yeah, $5 a day. We know how we can get the best sort of use of that $5 a day. If people are then going down to conversion and capture and conversion, then we'll often refer it out, to others. And often we get referrals because people are changing their search and Google ad spend, right? So they might have a much more expansive budget around the digital side of things, right? So yeah, just going back to the top of this little proposal, which I'm not sure you probably had a look at this previously, But, we talk about wanting to protect the brand across the social media and online presence. We want to differentiate the brand compared to its competitors, and that includes the representatives of the brand. Clearly, because of the daily posts and the advertising, we want you to be top of mind with the existing client. And Mike, we often talk about the daily posts that we do are around speaking to the people that already know you, right? So it's already people that are buying from the site, that are following from the site, generally speaking, right? Because they're already seeing a percentage of posts. Whereas the advertising is getting to people that don't know, right? So it's getting to those new people.
Yep.
And then ultimately, like I'm sure yourself, we aim to increase business opportunities. And hence why we do talk about the return on investment. Ultimately, people do want to sell more educational resources, or certainly have a lot more inquiry as a result of working with us. Yeah. And we do that by way of creating the infrastructure in a setup session in the first place, and having a planning session and using Facebook ads, which probably plays into this next little bit. So today, this audit and consult, we're recording for Terry and Carol as well, but we waive this cost if it progresses. So whilst it's $374 in terms of the hour spent doing audit and then talking this through, we don't actually invoice it if people progress. So so that's that side of things. It just means that we get more meaningful inquiry, if that makes sense.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, look, all sounds really good so far, guys. So appreciate all the effort you've gone to review everything. So thank you very much. Look, and look, like anything, I think I'm sure Carol and Terry will be very interested in looking at this, and then really will be just, I think, figuring out where to start in terms of your recommendations, and also as we go and as you guys get to know the business more so and understand the intricacies. So they're already quite avid marketers in a way, but the whole digital space as well is a whole nother kettle of fish in a way. So they do regular EDMs. They do a printed catalog which they send out. They print thousands of these bloody things every year. So there's a lot going on. How you integrate, as you said, and that makes a lot of sense. So really the next thing for Terry and Carol, all it becomes is just probably making a decision of when would suit. Do you think it would be Carol then, most likely, or do you think there'd be one or more? For us, it doesn't make too much difference whether it's one or more within the session. It's just more about whether Carol might finish up being the sponsor, and in a way, you and Carol, but it's almost having a champion that we would be sort of maybe dealing with within the business too. So Carol's ex-marketing, so she's previously ran a PR company, and
cool.
And,
awesome.
So she's got a pretty wide understanding of it all, but as
we love that.
Digital's a changing place, right? And like as you guys know, there are so many channels that we all need to look at it as business.
Right. But Carol sounds ideal, because realistically, we love that, right? Because this is a classic sort of business that's worked well and truly up and before social media marketing was a thing, right? So it's just a matter of now trying to work out how you integrate this within to get the best, continue the momentum of the business, So
absolutely.
Well, that's awesome. So, realistically, it would just then be a matter of, usually we do this as a full day, sort of a 3 + 2 hour day. And it's just a matter of determining when might be suitable to do that. We do it on this platform. So just because we can share, Carol can be sharing from her end, we can share from our end, and we can record the sessions. And it just makes it nice and easy for us, realistically. Given that heading up to Sydney and doing it in person is not really it probably is increasingly an option, but
I had 3 face-to-face meetings last week.
Yeah,
so it's starting to happen again. But
exactly.
That's totally fine. And look, they're all based up in Cessnock, Hunter Valley.
Yeah.
That's where they run the business from. So look, they're quite used to cases, and you'll also be able to meet their extended team, I guess. My brother's actually started to work with the business recently.
Awesome.
So he moved up to Hunter with his family, and he's now working with Carol and Terry in Lioncrest. He's got a technical background as well, so hopefully he can help with more of the tech, any kind of tech questions you guys might have. Yeah,
well, I think that just sounds ideal. It's always good to know that there's people within there as well that can. Realistically, our level, people often confuse us with technicians, but really we're just using the platforms that we use. Often it's about describing what we need to get done by someone that's technical, particularly around websites and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's all cool. So did you have any sort of feedback or other questions at this stage? No?
I think that looks great, guys. And look, I think, kind of in the name of your business, they're really looking for somebody to help do it for them to an extent. And obviously it has to fit with the grand plan and all the other activities. But really, I think, while they've dipped their toes into the social world, I think there's a whole bunch more they can do, and it is an ongoing thing that needs to be nurtured and maintained. So I think hopefully next step, let's try and tip a chat with them, and then work out what's the starting point. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. That's good. Well, next time we speak to you, hopefully you have your beach background back again, and you'll be less under the pump.
If I was at the beach, I'd be more happy, to be honest. But it's
true.
Yeah, one of those things.
It's definitely not a beachy day down here today, I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's actually quite cold up here as well, mate. So
I swear we hit 1st of April, and it was just like, okay, that's winter.
Yeah.
All right, no worries, Mike. Well, listen, you get back to juggling. What was it?
Your 10 chainsaws. Yeah.
Chainsaws.
Yeah.